You ever notice how some people run when things start to get real? It's confusing. One moment they're close, charming, even magnetic. Then suddenly, they're distant, silent, cold. You think, did I do something wrong? But what if I told you? When an avoidant man starts realizing he might lose you, the woman who sees him, who loves him without chasing, something starts to shift. He doesn't change overnight, but you'll see cracks in the armor. Because deep down, even the most avoidant man feels something when he's on the verge of losing what he didn't know how to keep. Let's break it down. 1. He initiates contact more often. Suddenly, he's texting first. Not just hey, but something with weight, asking how your day was, referencing your past conversations. That's not a habit, that's fear. 2. He becomes curious about your life again. Out of nowhere, he wants to know who you're with, what you're doing, what you're planning next. Why? Because he's losing emotional access, and it terrifies him. 3. He starts mirroring your emotional tone. You show calm, he mirrors calm. You create distance, he senses it and leans in. He's learning your rhythm, trying not to scare you away further. 4. He remembers small details. Suddenly he's referencing something you said weeks ago. It's not accidental. When someone thinks they might lose you, they listen differently. 5. He gives you more time. An avoidant man values his space like gold until he thinks you might walk away. Then suddenly, your time becomes precious to him. 6. He lets his guard down just a little. Maybe he shares something personal. Opens up about something he rarely talks about. It's a crack in the wall. He's not over the fear, but he's afraid of something bigger now, losing you. 7. He becomes reactive to your boundaries. You set a limit. He doesn't disappear this time. Instead, he gets uncomfortable, even agitated, but stays in the conversation. That's growth. That's effort. 8. He stops playing cool. No more pretending he doesn't care. He might not say it directly, but his actions start betraying his pride. 9. He checks in on the relationship, not always in clear terms, but he might ask things like, "Are we okay?" Or "You've been a bit distant lately." That's his version of "I don't want to lose you." 10. He starts showing intent. He may not be perfect, but he's clearer about wanting something, to keep you around, to figure things out, to try. Listen, an avoidant man doesn't become secure overnight, but when fear of loss outweighs fear of closeness, he moves. And in those moments, pay attention, not to what he promises, but to what he fights for. Avoidant men shift behavior when fear of loss kicks in. It's subtle at first. You might not even notice it happening, just a slightly longer text, a bit more curiosity in his voice, or the way he lingers a moment longer before saying goodbye. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't say, "I'm scared of losing you." But his energy changes. He starts paying more attention. The man who once avoided emotional depth suddenly starts asking about your day again. The same man who used to pull away when things got too intimate now sticks around just a little longer after a disagreement. Why? Because losing you has started to feel more threatening than being close to you. That's the shift. Avoidants aren't emotionally numb, they're emotionally cautious. They fear the cost of closeness because it exposes them. It makes them feel vulnerable. But when they feel the real risk of losing someone who matters, the fear of vulnerability gets a rival, the fear of regret. And when that fear of regret starts to grow, it wakes them up. They begin replaying past conversations. They remember things you said that they brushed off at the time. They check your social media more. They ask mutual friends about you. They're paying attention to signals they used to ignore. When they text, it's not just out of habit, it's with purpose. They want to know if they still have access to your heart. They become sensitive to changes in your tone. They notice when your replies come slower. They overthink your silence. Before, they were the ones keeping distance. Now they're reading the distance and feeling anxious about it. They may not express it clearly, but you'll see it in how they try to reconnect. They'll bring up a memory you shared. They'll mention something you said weeks ago, not to manipulate, but to reach for something familiar. That's how they test the waters. It's not grand gestures at first. It's quiet shifts. He's not suddenly a new man, but the fear of losing you makes him want to try. Not because he's ready to give you everything, but because he's realizing he doesn't want a life where you're no longer there. He doesn't say this out loud. He won't always show up perfectly, but if you look closely, you'll see it in his pauses, in his questions, in the moments he chooses to stay instead of pull away. It's not just about change. It's about the quiet panic of losing something that finally felt real. They begin initiating more frequent and meaningful contact. It doesn't happen all at once, but one day the silence starts to break. The man who used to take hours, even days, to respond, suddenly texts first, and not just with a dry "hey" or a casual meme. He actually asks how you are. He checks in on something you mentioned in passing weeks ago. He wants to know how that meeting went, how your mom's doing, what your weekend looks like. It's not random, it's not convenience, it's intention. Because when an avoidant man feels like he might lose you, he starts reaching out more, not just to stay in touch, but to feel connected again. To re-establish that thread between you and him. There's a noticeable difference in the way he communicates. Before, he might have kept things surface level. Now, he lingers in conversation a little longer. He responds faster. He gives more than one-word answers. And for someone who once protected his space like it was gold, that shift is massive. It's not just the volume of contact that changes. It's the asterisk tone asterisk. You'll feel more warmth, more curiosity, more presence. He's not just replying anymore, he's engaging, trying to keep the emotional rhythm between you alive, because for the first time, he's not just worried about feeling trapped. He's worried about being forgotten. He starts calling more, maybe even out of nowhere, and when you pick up, he doesn't always have something big to say. Sometimes he just wants to hear your voice, to see if you'll answer. To remind himself and you that there's still a line open between you. He might check in more during the day, a simple just thinking about you that feels strangely out of character, but that's the point. He is out of character right now because fear has disrupted his usual pattern. He's stepping outside of what's comfortable to hold onto what he doesn't want to lose. That's why the contact becomes more meaningful. He starts saying things that matter. Things that show he's been listening, things that suggest he's finally seeing the value of what you bring into his life, not just your presence, but your attention. Your warmth, your understanding. He may not be great at expressing it all. He might still stumble, still retreat now and then, but this new pattern of showing up first, of saying something real, of trying to connect instead of avoid it speaks volumes. Because when a man who once ran from closeness starts making the first move, it means he's not just scared of losing you, he's already starting to feel what that loss might actually look like. Curiosity about your personal life increases. It starts with small questions. He asks who you were with last night. He casually wonders what you've been up to lately, but underneath those simple questions, there's something deeper happening. This isn't just casual interest. This is a man who's starting to feel the ground shift beneath him. He senses the distance growing, and he wants to know if someone else is stepping into the space he once occupied. He listens more closely when you talk about your plans. He catches the names you mention. He asks about your friends, your schedule, your mood. Because when an avoidant man feels like he might lose you, curiosity becomes his quiet way of staying close. He's not just trying to make conversation. He's looking for clues, trying to piece together where you are emotionally, trying to figure out if he still holds the same place in your world. He starts noticing things he used to overlook, a change in your routine, a shift in your energy, even the tone of your voice when you talk about someone new. He may not say it out loud, but he feels it, and instead of retreating like he used to, he leans in. He wants to know if there's a reason behind your silence. He wonders if your laughter is lighter around others than it is around him. And while he may act like it's no big deal, he feels the tension growing inside. So he asks more questions. What have you been working on? Where did you go over the weekend? What's been on your mind lately? This curiosity doesn't come from nowhere. It's driven by the fear of fading from your world. He wants to stay relevant in your story. He wants to be someone you still share things with, because once you stop opening up, he knows that's when it's over, so he makes the effort even if it's subtle. he tries to pull you back into conversation. He tries to remind you and himself that he still matters to you. He becomes more attentive to how you talk about your life, more aware of what excites you, more tuned into what's changed, because even if he once avoided closeness, now he's avoiding something else being left behind. Curiosity is no longer just about knowing what's going on. It's about reconnecting with what he fears is slipping away. It's about staying part of your emotional world before he becomes just another stranger to it. They mirror your emotional tone and energy, not always intentionally, but almost instinctively. When an avoidant man senses the connection slipping, he becomes hyper, aware of your presence, and even more aware of your emotional state. If you're calm and composed, he responds with a similar calmness. If you're distant and quiet, he starts to pull back too, not to punish you, but to protect himself, because he's watching you closely now. He's reading the room. He's matching the rhythm of your emotions to feel safe, and to make you feel safe around him again. He doesn't want to be the one pushing anymore. He doesn't want to cause more damage. So instead of leading with his usual detachment, he starts reflecting what you're showing him. If you're light and warm, you'll notice him soften. If you start speaking with more depth and honesty, he might slowly do the same. This mirroring is his way of saying, I'm still here, I'm paying attention, I care. He's trying to keep the peace, to maintain whatever closeness is left, because in his mind, things feel fragile now. And when something feels fragile, you handle it with care, so he starts syncing with your energy, hoping it will rebuild the emotional safety he once kept at a distance. He might not be able to express what he's feeling directly, but his emotional radar becomes sharper. He's noticing how often you smile, how quickly you respond, whether you sound excited or detached, and then he adjusts himself to meet you there, not to manipulate, not to pretend, but because this is what fear does to someone who doesn't want to lose the connection entirely. Suddenly, he cares more about harmony, about making sure he doesn't step on landmines, about making sure you don't pull away any further. He starts walking at your pace emotionally. If you need space, he gives it but watches closely. If you start to come closer, he mirrors that closeness carefully but willingly. It's like watching someone trying to dance to music they've always been afraid of. He's listening harder now, trying not to miss the beat, trying not to be too loud or too quiet, just enough to stay connected, just enough to keep you from shutting the door completely. Because when a man who once feared emotional closeness starts mirroring your emotional tone, it means your presence still matters, your energy still moves him, and your silence, it now echoes louder than any words he hears. Small details start standing out to them, things they used to miss they suddenly start to notice, the way your voice changes when you're tired, the kind of tea you like after a long day, the way you brush your hair behind your ear when you're thinking. These aren't just cute habits to him now, they're signals, they're reminders of your presence, your depth, your uniqueness. When an avoidant man feels the fear of losing you, he becomes more observant. Not just because he's curious, but because he's trying to reconnect, trying to find his way back through the pieces he once overlooked. He remembers something you said 3 weeks ago, that dream you mentioned once, half laughing, thinking maybe it didn't matter. He brings it up casually, but it's not casual to him. It's a breadcrumb he followed back to a feeling he didn't know how to hold onto before. He notices what makes you light up, what songs you sing along to in the car, what kind of texts make you smile, and which ones leave you quiet. He starts picking up on patterns, your morning routines, your Sunday rituals, even the way your energy shifts when something's on your mind. Before, he might have brushed past these things, too wrapped up in his own walls, too guarded to tune in fully, but now the fear of loss sharpens his senses. He starts to see you more clearly, not just as someone he likes, but someone he could actually lose. And that thought hits different, so he pays attention. He notices your new haircut, even if it's subtle. He comments on your favorite scent. He brings up a memory you thought he forgot, because now he's reaching for proof that he knows you, that he sees you, that he hasn't been completely absent, even if he's been emotionally distant. Sometimes he won't even know why he remembers certain things, but he does, and those small details become his way of staying connected. His way of showing up without overwhelming you, because he knows grand gestures might not land right now, so he leans into the quiet stuff, the little things that matter more than he ever realized. He listens more carefully, watches more closely, feels more deeply even if he struggles to say it out loud, because in those small details, he's finally understanding something bigger, that love isn't always about what you say. Sometimes it's about what you notice when you're really afraid to lose someone, and that's the quiet truth, isn't it? When someone's scared of losing you, they don't always say it in big, dramatic ways. Sometimes it shows up in the details, in the way they text a little more, listen a little harder, stay a little longer. Sometimes it's not a grand declaration, it's a shift in energy, a soft effort, a quiet reaching out. And while it may not erase the past or fix everything overnight, it shows one thing clearly: they care, and maybe for the first time, they're finally starting to show it.